Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's the first webinar of the year, and I'm so excited to start off on the right foot with y'all. My name's Sharon Parento, and we are going to get started very quickly. Just going to ask you to mute yourself. However, that being said, it's not that we don't want to hear from you. We just would encourage you to use our messaging portion of the Zoom webinar for you. If you have comments or questions, this is a great place to add them in. So if you hover your mouse over the top of the screen where the little box is, it will give you an option for more, ... And that more is where you can participate in the chat, okay? So we are gonna get started very quickly, but in the meantime, please mute yourself and we will start right away because I wanna get in. We have a lot to cover today. And I just wanna give you the breakdown, the overview. But before then, I probably should introduce myself to those of you who are new to our webinars. My name is Sharon Parento, and this picture was taken pre-COVID haircut and a different little seasonal adjustment. So I'm a realtor with Keller Williams. And when I started my career and I was door knocking in my neighborhood of Richmond Hill, I started hearing the same kinds of questions over and over again. And as a former educator, I thought, well, I can do this and knock on 30 doors an hour, or I can have webinars in or seminars in our community and have people come out. And we filled up rooms, we filled up meeting halls in libraries and community centers and senior centers. And so we have literally been working on this for years and refining as we go. So I hope, this is my hope, that the time we have together today is valuable in both in terms of its practical application, but also its inspirational value, because we know basically what to do in decluttering. It's not rocket science. I don't propose any magic, hocus pocus done, but it can be done strategically to kind of chunk it down. And we're going to get to that in a second. But in the meantime, I'd love to know where you're from. I'm in the GTA. I specialize in downsizing seniors in York region, particularly. Also now branching into Simcoe and Durham, but predominantly I'm a GTA-based York region realtor. But where are you guys from? It's always so interesting because we want to know how you found us too. Like that to me is fascinating, the power of the web. But let's just talk about decluttering. Decluttering as an issue seems to be so timely, so relevant as we face long weeks ahead in our home. It's more important than ever that our environment supports our overall mental health and lifestyle goals. Would you agree with me there? So this, even though we've been doing this for years, it's not any less relevant today than it was. Now, I'm giving you a realtor's eye view of this, but I know what I see in terms of the benefits to decluttering with my clients. And I'm going to tell you unequivocally, decluttering is the #1 thing you can do to improve the resale value of your home. Don't worry about granite kitchens. Don't worry about spa-like master en-suites. Worry about showing your property in its best, which is always clean and decluttered. So that being said, that's, it can be overwhelming. I get it. And it's especially difficult if you are with a spouse and your spouse and you have different thresholds of acceptable clutter, mess, right? It's so often that a neat person marries a messy, and then they drive each other a little bit crazy. So our goal is to work in a very comprehensive way, but in a moderate way. And I'm never going to tell you to do anything. I'm only going to give you hints and helps. Okay, so look at this couple here. They're so happy. They're decluttering. She finally convinced him to get rid of his thingamajigs, and he finally convinced her to get rid of the craft supplies, and they are on their way to a decluttered, lighter, fresher lifestyle for the future. Now, I hope you're feeling welcomed. Welcome. If not, I hope you understand where I'm coming from with our introduction. And here's what we're going to cover. And I really want you to stay tuned until the end, because we have a special offer for you. I don't want to sound too like infomercial. You know, operators are standing by, but we do have something special for you at the end. Okay, so stay tuned. I know that in some ways I am preaching to the choir. The fact that you are here and you are attending this webinar, you already know the high cost of clutter. You already have probably feelings of overwhelm, and either it is financial or emotional or physical. There's been something here that has been a blockage that you have not yet been able to overcome. And I see this all the time in my real estate business, that when I talk to clients, they say, oh, we'd love to move to a condo, but have you seen our basement? Have you seen our garage? And it becomes a decision that they keep deferring and deferring and deferring. And there is a window of opportunity that is gradually closing. And if you've ever had the unfortunate circumstance of having to clear out an estate sale, you know what I mean. It is a real burden left to the family to deal with at a time when they are least prepared to deal with it. And it just becomes something that you end up inadvertently foisting onto your successors. So a lot of times I kind of joke, but also semi-seriously say that we are all living in 2,500 square foot, 4-bedroom storage units. And it's kind of a shame when you start to add up even just the financial costs of maintaining a home to maintain your stuff. Okay? And I'm not going to be too preachy, but I want you to realize that clutter is often, for my client base as downsizers, it is the enemy that is holding them in a home that no longer suits their needs. They would move if they didn't have all this stuff to deal with. That's kind of tragic. But let's just look at some of the other costs, the social aspect of it. Now, I know this is not particularly relevant now, but I cannot tell you how many times I've gone into people's homes as part of maybe giving them a property evaluation or just meeting for a downsizing consultation. And they say, oh, excuse the mess, excuse the mess. You know what? We all have mess. That's not what I'm talking about. That if it stops you from using your home as a sanctuary from the stresses of the day, and it's no longer a center of hospitality, that's a cost, a high cost. And what about the downtime aspect? Like, we would like to be in organized, peaceful, serene environments. And if you look around and the clutter makes you anxious, that's a cost. And even we talk about the financial cost of having to purchase duplicate items because you can't find what you were looking for. This is very common. We go out to the dollar store and buy a cheap replica of the thing we know we have a much better quality version of, but we just can't find. Or even things like paying bills late. Like, seriously, are you having interest charges accumulate because you can't find your bills? Or, and then we have heard of people who actually park in their garage. I'm joking, but it's true. Wouldn't you like to be able to pull your car into the garage, but instead it's got camping equipment and bikes and sporting stuff that nobody uses anymore? Okay, so one interesting study says at the bottom of the page here that we spend an average of 1 year of our lives looking for lost items. And I can tell you what mine is. It's my glasses. Oh my gosh, drives me crazy. But in general, we all can benefit by this. There's not a single one of us in this meeting today that does not have a bad case of affluenza, meaning we have more than we need. Everybody. There's not a single person I meet who doesn't have more stuff than they require. So the financial impact too, we talked about the late charges. Did you know, this is so interesting, that the self-storage retail component of real estate is the #1 fastest growing segment in the US. You know, you look at a new neighborhood, what goes up first? Tim Hortons. Second, if you really made it big, you've got a Walmart and a nail shop. What is it with the nail shops? And then there's a self-storage, because so many people have actually even outgrown their homes and need a secondary place to store their stuff. And if you've ever watched those storage war shows on TV, my goodness, you can see that people often put it in storage and forget it. If you haven't used it, you don't need it. Okay, little sidebar. I have a next door neighbor who lives in the same size townhouse as I do. And 2 summers ago, he started paving over his backyard. And I'm going, oh, geez, that's not so great. Then he put up 3 big storage units. Then he added a portico that has like a roof to it. And every single one of those things was to store stuff. And it's all shrink wrapped out there in the winter. He doesn't even use it. And I'm thinking, buddy, you do not have a storage problem. You have a stuff problem. And I'm going to say that that's the extreme. But all of us, to some degree, have a little bit of that going on. So this actually has the wrong caption to it. It's supposed to say, you know what I really want is I need another book on decluttering because I lost the first one that you gave me. Not so true. Now, we understand the cost. We understand it's something that we have to do. But what has been holding you back up until now? Well, these are some so-called reasons in the red, and the green is the truth that can be applied to those. You know, life is about balancing truths, isn't it? There isn't one way. It's not red and white. It's not red and green, black and white. It is something somewhere in the middle. But when you hear yourself saying these things, there is a counterbalancing truth that I hope will help bring down some of those barriers for you to get to freedom from this. So a lot of it is emotional, like feeling guilty, where we go, oh, I don't want to get rid of that china set that my grandmother gave because it seems somehow disrespectful to her memory. Or you have a sentimental attachment to things. I am the worst at this. I have boxes, I had boxes of preschool crafts that my daughters made. And I'm going to tell you, macaroni art does not really age that well. I'm surprised it didn't attract some little pesky things. But we can take the best of the best, but not every piece of macaroni art is worth keeping. And you know what? We have a very powerful storage tool in our hands, most of us, and that's our cell phones. If you really have to keep it, maybe we keep one piece from every year of their schooling. Maybe even that's too much, but we take photos of it and then we've got them forever. We don't actually have to keep the immediate thing. And mementos of bowling tournaments and spelling bees and all of that kind of stuff. We don't need it anymore as we go into our future lives. Those are great reminders of the past, but what's more important is serving your future. Now, we also have a lot of people who are practical minded, and they say, well, I got to keep it because I might need it someday. Oh my word, I've heard this so much. I've said it so often too. But let's just talk about that for a second. Everyone here, if we agree, has more than we need. What happens if you actually did give it away or throw it away and you found out a year from now that you actually needed it? What's the worst thing that could happen? You'd have to rebuy it. You know, that is within your means, I'm going to presume. So if you don't actually need it, you're better off to get rid of it. And the best way to do this is to set an expiry date and say, okay, I'll give myself another 6 months. And if I haven't used it, or 3 months, then I'm going to get rid of it. You know what this really does well with is clothing. Oh my goodness, clothing is so great. And as we get ready to change over from fall to spring, I heard this little hack where everything that you wear, when you wash it and you put it back in your closet, you turn the hanger backwards. So most of us turn the hanger this way, like it's hanging on the bar. You turn it this way, and then you know you've been wearing it. And at the end of the season, when you're about to pack up your winter clothes and switch over to summer, if you have not used this thing because the hanger didn't get turned around, out it goes. Okay, so I know we all want to keep the dress that is 2 sizes smaller. We all want to keep that special memento ball gown from when we did black tie things, but you know what, you don't need it. What you need is space. What you need is freedom. So it comes down to the difference between needs and wants. Now let's look at the other aspect that's practically speaking about it. You paid good money for it. Well, I'm gonna humbly suggest that if you paid for it, you used it, it doesn't owe you anything. It's done. And like Marie Kondo says, you can thank it for its service and let it go. This is especially prevalent with high ticket items like dining room sets. Can I just tell you this? I scrimped and saved when I was a newlywed for a beautiful Duncan Fife cherry wood dining set from Quebec. We didn't have any furniture, but we had to have this dining room set. And I don't even like it anymore. And the fact that we paid X number of dollars 25 years ago does not influence its overall value to me now, right? It's only got value if it's adding to my life. And if it's not adding to my life, it has to go. Now, this is another thing in the middle. You can read these. You're all attractive, intelligent, and successful people. You can read this screen, but the middle one is a big deal. If you are holding on to stuff for, let's say, your kids, big question here. Do they know? Have you told them that you're keeping grandma's rocking chair for them? And more importantly, do they want it? I had this revelation. I had saved the rocking chair. That's why I use that example. I had saved the rocking chair from when I was a stay-at-home mom with my 4 daughters, and I was saving it for one of them. And when my eldest daughter moved back home, she helped me to relieve myself of the preschool art and also this rocking chair. She said to me, "Mom, we don't want that. Like that's not the style right now." And I go, "Okay." I said, "Well, what about this cradle? It's got like 40,000 miles on it of me rocking you back and forth to sleep." She said, "Are you trying to kill your future grandchildren? That's not safety code today. You've got to get rid of this." And we put it out on the curb, and within a half hour, it was gone. So I had this kind of romantic notion, this sentimental notion that I was going to give them some of this baby furniture that I had held on to, and they didn't want any part of it. And I think a lot of us have the same kind of hang up that if we get rid of it, we're somehow not going to be able to bequeath it to people who in actuality don't want it. Okay, so these are some of the things we tell ourselves, the myths, the mistruths, the alternate facts. And I want to just challenge each and one of those, and that you can really just acknowledge it, challenge it, and move on. And then you don't have to have guilt or a loss of value or any of those other negative feelings associated to decluttering. Okay? Any questions so far? Anybody have another reason not covered here that holds them back from decluttering? Some people, it's actually the physical work, that the idea of having to get down into the basement and tote barges and lift bales, like that's too much. So we have a plan for that. But anything else you want to ask, you want to comment on, or a suggestion you want to make? Because I know I have a huge brain trust here of lots of people with lots of experience, and I know many of you have good ideas beyond what I'm stating. Please share. Yeah. Son, I've been saving all my best stuff for you. You're welcome. Yeah. And he's looking at it like, no, thank you. We also sometimes have multi-generational stuff. The other way it goes around too, right? Where we have our kids' stuff. So it's not just elders to their children, it's sometimes our children to us. Yeah. I don't want your stuff. I don't want your rock concert posters anymore. Please take them. And then, yes, one day, Cheryl, all this will be yours. People don't collect like they used to. People don't keep Royal Dalton figurines or Limoges china. They just don't anymore. So we have to just get brutally honest with ourselves that maybe the people you are hanging on to it don't actually want it. Yes. You know what I really want for our anniversary, Harold? A dumpster. Oh my goodness, I have dumpster envy. Can you imagine what that would be like? Everything you pick up that you don't want just goes right out into the dumpster. Oh, that would be joy. That would be bliss. And when I see a dumpster in my neighborhood, I think, ooh, big reno coming. So anyways, this is all doable. I have complete confidence that you can move forward. And I'm going to show you some suggestions why and how. So as I said, I'm coming to you as a realtor, and this is the most important thing you can do to prepare your home for sale. But you do kind of need a strategy. It's not going to be one day it all disappears. It didn't arrive that way, right? And so we have to have something kind of more systematic to address it. So in a previous life, I was a history teacher, and I love this metaphor of doing battle, right? That we've got to get ready to do battle, the battle of decluttering. And when we treat it like that, as a project with a plan and some preparation, we have far better success. And so we're not ready today to start the campaign against clutter, but we are going to mentally and practically start to prepare. So we want to start strong. Like every other good intention or New Year's resolution, this desire you have to declutter has a time limit to it, right? That as the weeks go on, your resolution wanes, and by mid-March it's gone, right? Like they say, the gyms are filled, or they would be filled this month and not so much in the subsequent. So we want to start strong while we have a good intention, and that's going to be by, first of all, putting a day on the calendar when you're going to start. We're going to declare our intentions. We're going to write it down. Maybe it's February 1st, whatever it is. Maybe it doesn't matter what the date is. The issue is that you actually declare it and write it down. And we also know that if you share that intention with somebody else, you have a far greater chance of following through on it. So whether that's a friend that you want to team up with and hold each other accountable, or your spouse, that's really super important. It's also important to do the next step, which is to give notice to the people in your life who are using your house as free storage. You need to tell them the lease is up and that they have a deadline to retrieve their belongings, or you're going to have to do something with them yourself. So you could offer to arrange for storage for them, but they pay for it, or you just have to let them know that your dad and I, this is the way we have to phrase things sometimes to our kids, your dad and I are really serious about getting ready to downsize, and we have a lot of stuff. We know we have our own stuff, but we've also been holding on to your stuff, your hockey equipment, your college essays and books. We would really like you to make a plan to get rid of it. And could we give you a deadline of February 28th to get this done? And just see, and I noticed in the past that having just that conversation, when they sense your resolve, they really will respond to it. Okay, so they will rise up, or you're going to get the definitive answer that this is your issue and you're going to have to dispose of it. Either way, it's better than not knowing. Okay, third part of getting ready to do battle is that we are going to gather our supplies. You know, you don't send the army out to the battle without their weaponry. What are your weapons? Well, they are going to be things like contractor garbage bags from Home Depot. I love these. They're big enough and strong enough you could probably throw a body in them, but not that I'm suggesting that. They're huge and they only count as one garbage bag. So terrific. As long as they're not too heavy, then you can use those. I also like getting a bunch of boxes for things that I'm going to be donating when I don't need the boxes back. So maybe if you can find them anymore at the grocery store, start collecting those. And then I love clear bins with a lid on them so that you can see what's in them. For when you are sorting, the whole thing is we only want to pick things up once and put them where they're actually going to go. And if you have the opportunity to pick up garbage tags for those days when you have more than the allotted number of bags for your area, that's a great idea too. We also get a roll of tape, a marker, so everything can be labeled. And I love this technique. If it's just this simple, that you go around with a roll of green painter's tape and you just start tagging things that are going. And green is go. And then you've got the decision already made. And then finally, I want you to think of how much better, lighter, brighter your environment's going to be at the end. And it is important to think of the end goal in mind. It's not just about the work, it's about the reward. Okay, so there's two things that motivate people, psychologists have said. One of them is the carrot, and the other one is the stick. So you know yourself best. What is going to be the reward that you do for sticking to a plan to declutter your property? I've given you the monetary impetus, being that it'll increase resale value, it'll help your mental health, it will help all aspects of your other life. But what is it that is important to you about getting this done? Okay. So we're going to prepare to do battle. We're getting our troops rallied. We're getting everything we need. And then the next step is that we are going to start taking back territory. We use a method called the Pomodoro method. This is what we prescribe for our clients who would like to declutter. The Pomodoro method is named after that ubiquitous kitchen timer that looks like a tomato. And it was developed by a professor in Europe who was working with graduate students who were struggling with productivity. And so he did some tests as to what was the maximum sweet spot for focus and productivity. And by testing, he found out it was 25 minutes. I use this system in every aspect of my life, where I set the timer for 25 minutes, and whatever it is that I'm procrastinating on or avoiding, I set the timer and I can do it for 25 minutes. Like, it's not so long that it's like hours that you're committing to. It's just a good amount of time that you will see benefit, and you'll start to see results in 25 minutes. So I like wearing my headphones, I turn on the music, and I go to town for 25 minutes, and it gets me up and off the couch, or out of the chair, so that I can get it done. Because the whole purpose here is not to treat this like a sprint. This is a marathon, to change metaphors. We don't go to the gym when we go to the gym and just expect to achieve all our fitness goals in one day. It's something that we have to apply effort to consistently over time. And a small amount of effort over time is what's going to give you the results. Time on task over time is the winning formula. Okay, so the Pomodoro method is we chunk time. And what happens when the timer goes off? You take a break, you rehydrate, and if you want to do another 25-minute chunk, then go for it. But you just realize you've met your obligation to do that first chunk. Now, the other part is to chunk territory. We don't do a little sprinkling all around the house, and one day we organize the spice cupboard and my advice is to start and to stay in the area that requires the most decluttering. For many of us, it's our basements, but not always. So wherever you need it the most, that's where you stay. Because again, our resolve is high and it'll pay off the best. Otherwise, when you do a little diddly do all over the place, it feels like kind of going on a diet, but only depriving yourself of French fries. You really need to have a much more comprehensive approach to it. Otherwise, you have all the suffering and none of the reward, which is the benefit here, right? So if you keep with us to the end, we have a special offer for you that will help you get organized in starting with your taking back the territory, and it's designed around this 25-minute productivity golden rule, okay? So those are my two best pieces of advice with one caveat, okay? So one warning, do not start with paperwork. I'm going to tell you that by the time you get out of that slough of despond, we won't even see you come back again. If you have lots of papers to deal with, like most of us do, put them aside as a separate issue. They're not related to the kind of decluttering we're talking about now. And when you feel like it, you can start going through those boxes of papers on some other separate occasion. Now, the other thing is don't go through photos. Oh my word, this will stop your progress dead in your tracks. So start with the basement, but put aside the photo albums, put aside the papers that you run across, and just deal with the physical space until you're about 80% done. And then you might end up coming back to it again later. But don't we find that like we want to stay there until it's perfect? And no, it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be about 80% done, because one of the things I've learned about decluttering is that it's not an event. It's a journey, and you're going to end up having to come back and do a little deeper. It's, you keep going back to the problem areas and decluttering even further. But your initial go through, 80% should be fine. Okay. Now, if you cannot do this on your own, an army of one or army of two, then I'm going to encourage you to call in reinforcements. Again, using that metaphor of the military. You have been investing in people's lives all these years. So for all the times you have dog sat, house sat, kid sat, whatever it is, this is the time when you can reach out to your bubble and say, we need some help. Maybe it's just about lifting heavy items, down from the shelves. Maybe it's, you got to obviously stay safe, but it could possibly be a time where you bring people into your bubble. Now, I have to cough, so let me just mute. Okay, I'm back at you. Now, if you don't have a sphere of people who are in your bubble that you feel safe with and confident that they can come and help you, so many of us have children and relatives that are living far off. There is a ton of companies now who are dedicated to exactly this issue, and they are available for hire. The hired guns, they're the Prussians who come in and they clear out the clutter, and it's amazing the efficiency that they can achieve. A 3-person team for 6 hours is enough to get every home I've ever encountered ready for sale. Now, I'm not suggesting that you only declutter when you're ready for sale. Just for the enjoyment of a home that's been, lightened up is really a great initiative and incentive. But it's particularly important when we get ready to sell a home. And I've seen this numerous times where we just blitz it. either with a professional company or our real estate team sometimes is recruited for this purpose. But if you don't want to, or you cannot declutter yourself, you're not alone. There are lots of people. Even if it's a matter of hiring a grandkid, like the suggestion here, to run an online ad for you in a Facebook marketplace to get rid of some of these items. You don't feel comfortable with the technology, or you just don't want to, pay them a commission. You know, part-time jobs right now are so hard to find for young people. I'm sure they'd be appreciative of the pocket money. Okay, so we do have a list of companies we can refer you to for either self-managed sales or company managed sales. Okay, so that's a distinction. Okay, I just want you to picture this positive outcome. You know, I want you to have your best life going forward. Whether or not you're thinking of selling your house, that's not the issue. I want you to enjoy the house you're in for as long as it suits you. And an interesting concept that I read about and I thought was relevant is this idea of freedom to and freedom from. Like, we all are hearing a lot in the news about people standing up for their freedom about various issues. You know, there's freedom to do certain things that we really protect as adults, but there's also freedom from, and I think that's an important concept too, to be free from the things that cause you stress, that bring down your emotional energy, that prevent you from living your best life, as Oprah would say. I'm just a fount of aphorisms today, but choose the best that bring you joy, that enhance your life, and are really part of your future that you picture for yourself, and let the rest go. So when we come back next week, we're going to get down to the nitty gritty, and I'm going to give you some very, very specific challenges to keep on with your initiative. Today has been about setting the stage mentally, inspirationally, and I'm really thinking about this as a battle that requires planning and implementation and may require outside resources. So this is our special offer to you. This is a program that we developed as a 30-day decluttering challenge to help you act on your good impulse today. And this is a free program. There's no cost or obligation. There is never a cost or an obligation to our informational services. That's just part of our company ethos. And what we want to do is start you on small self-contained units of decluttering that you can accomplish over the course of a week and a month. It's not going to be me coming and checking your homework. There's no knock, knock, knock at the door. This is very much self-directed, but it does help you with suggestions of where you can start. And it's a beautiful program. It's appealing in terms of both its information, its inspiration, and it will get you into some perspiration to get this done. So this is free for you to sign up to. And it does somewhat belie my previous advice about staying in one area. It is going to show you, like you can see, the first job is the front hall closet. And in 25 minutes, our expectation is that you'd have things pulled out, organized, and put back in. And it does sprinkle you around. But if you need this to get started, we want to offer this to you. And you just have to let us know that you're interested, and we'll send you the resources. We also are going to send you a workbook that goes with our presentation today. It's going to help you to remind you of our talking points and just give you that specific battle plan mindset so that you can move on to getting this done for the new year. Okay. So those are our offers to you. I welcome the opportunity for any questions you might have. If there is specific resources that you need me to find out for you, like what do we do with antique books or high ticket items, those things, let me know and we'll do the research for you. Okay, you can put that right in the chat box right now. Okay, so that's us for you today. Also want to tell you about our condo tours. Now, for a lot of the people we help, the next likely place they'll live is a condo. And there are some specific ins and outs that I'd love to share with you. And we do these by neighborhood. So coming up at the end of the month, we have our Richmond Hill condo tour. And even if you're not particularly interested in Richmond Hill, you're going to learn a lot about the condo market as it's situated right now, including things like how to read an MLS sheet. Because if you said to me, hey, Sharon, would you look for a condo in Vaughan for me? I could send you the sheet, but unless you know how to decode it, there's a lot of information there that you might miss. So we're going to do that. I'm going to also choose one here. This is what I love doing. I always choose a ground floor unit and a penthouse. We look for 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms. We look for new condo buildings and also older condo buildings, because they're very different in the lifestyle that they allow. So we want to show you as many options as possible, and a variety of price points too. Okay, so we will also send you the link for this, and you can sign up at any time. So let me just take a minute here and look at our chat box and see if I can. Okay, so we have someone in North York, someone in Scarborough, somebody, oh, Phoenix, Arizona. Oh, why am I not in Phoenix, Arizona? Okay, so everything is available for you by just asking for it. It's really exciting that you're all here. Thank you for joining us today. We will be continuing next week. It's like a self-help group. It's like the 12-step for decluttering, but it's going to be something that we really get into nitty-gritty next week, and I hope you'll come back and join us. Okay, so that's that. And then look at the other webinars that we've developed for you, because these are the questions that my clients ask me all the time. What are the best renovations for the return on investment? Should I do the granite countertops? What about, you know, I have dusty rose broadloom in my living room. What should I do about that? All of these things are important questions, and I give you my realtor's eye view. We also get into staging. I love staging as an idea, as a practice. It's so much fun. And then we also have a webinar where it's really time to evaluate, is this the right time to consider downsizing? Okay, so number one, link us up for the 30-day decluttering challenge. It will get you started. You'll be so pleased. It'll be very helpful. And I guarantee you'll lose 30 pounds of ugly clutter. Okay, so there's that. And I want to just say thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you today. Yes, you will be getting a copy of this recording as someone who attended the webinar today. We'll get you a copy of both the slideshow and the recording, and we have great resources that we have been collecting, curating. That's the word everybody uses now, curating. And then you will have the opportunity to sign up for the decluttering challenge. Okay, so thank you, Diana, for your kind comments. If you have any questions, we still have a few more minutes. And if not, it will be my great pleasure to wish you a wonderful Wednesday. Happy hump day. And my number one goal for you is to get over the hump and get you all decluttering. Okay? Yes, I will make sure that everybody gets a copy of the resources, along with my amazing operations coordinator, Melissa. We'll make sure that everybody gets everything that they need and want, and maybe a few other things too. Okay, my pleasure. I hope you are all healthy and safe and keeping clutter free as much as possible. Okay, thanks so much. Have a wonderful day. And I'm going to stop.